Thank you for joining me today on another episode of Adaptive Men Podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about the work. I hear this a lot. You see this a lot online nowadays. A lot of people talking about therapy and trauma and old behaviors and trying to change and improve yourself. And it's always do the work. Make sure you're doing the work. The work, the work, the work. And what I never really hear people say, or I don't hear as much as I'd like to, is what is the work? From a more science-based perspective, from a more human, biological, neurological, endocrinolo, I don't know what that word is. Either way, what is the work in the context of our bodies, our minds, our neurology, our brains? What's actually happening? So on the spectrum of things like self-improvement and emotional growth and mental resilience, the work essentially is doing the activities that is helping you to rewire the parts of your brain that maybe did not up until this point get the proper training and education and behavioral exposure that it needed to become what it needed to be. So in this case, simplest example, the way of thinking of this is that in the front of your head, you have your prefrontal cortex. That's the seat of decision making, executive function. A lot of impulse control happens there. Further back, we get more things like the hippocampus and the amygdala, where memories are stored or emotional impulses come from. Parts of you when you feel horny, when you feel scared, when you feel angry, all that is coming from further back in the brain. And what we're doing in these activities, when we decide to do something like journaling, or we decide to do meditation, or we decide to go exercising, especially when we don't want to, what we're trying to do is to voluntarily expose our brains to the circumstances that need to be done in order to strengthen those parts of the brain that are currently weaker than they should be. The more you do something like meditation, for example, the more you are physically practicing the act of trying to get your prefrontal cortex to maintain control and awareness, while the back of your brain, your subconscious, your unconscious mind, your limbic system, your monkey brain is trying to overtake you, trying to convince you of succumbing to certain impulses and feelings and thoughts and ideas of what it wants. And it may not be necessarily a bad thing sometimes to actually listen to those impulses. It might be that, maybe if you're feeling aroused and horny, it's okay to, enjoy that impulse. If you're feeling a little bit angry towards a situation where you're threatened, it's okay to listen to that impulse. But if in your everyday life, you can't focus because all you can think about is sex all the time, or you can't focus because somebody says something to you that pissed you off so much that you literally lost the ability to focus. This is where the work comes in. This is where when you do something like journaling, you're actively practicing the method of strengthening the parts of your brain that are required to observe yourself. You can't stop yourself from feeling certain things, but what you can do is strengthen the parts of your brain through these activities to actually control it and manage it and observe it. Something like journaling is fantastic. Something like meditation is fantastic for literally strengthening the prefrontal cortex, which is, again, the seat of your executive function, the seat of your decision-making ability. I might wake up one day and really want to eat a whole bag of Doritos, but the executive decision function says I should actually have some bacon and eggs as a healthy decision. I may not want to right now, but I'm strong enough in my PFC, my prefrontal cortex, and other parts of my brain to overcome those impulses because of things like meditation, journaling, exercising, eating clean. Willpower and this ability to manage your impulses is not an infinite resource. You have to use it wisely. You have to use it effectively, and you have to be aware of the fact that if you have terrible impulse control, if you have, it's quite literally it. If you have bad impulse control, if you have an inability to say no to certain things, if you have an inability to control heavy emotions moving through your system, the work is the activities that get you to be stronger and a better capacity to strengthen the parts of your brain that help you calm those parts down. Perfect example of this is something like meditation. Meditation is fantastic for A, strengthening the prefrontal cortex, and B, calming down the amygdala. The amygdala in this case is a part of your brain associated with many other things. A big one of those associated with fear. Fear of any sort of any kind. When the amygdala starts firing off, it can easily overwhelm your prefrontal cortex unless you've done the work to strengthen your prefrontal cortex and other areas associated with this ability to control those impulses to actually get what you want to get done. So things like meditation, journaling, exercising on a regular basis, maybe breath work, maybe learning to like manage your breathing. If you're overly stressed, learning to calm yourself down through breathing. If you're very lethargic, winding yourself up through breathing techniques, making sure you're socializing on a regular basis, figuring out where your behavior patterns lie. Whenever you get overwhelmed, do you result to things like video games? Do you go to porn? Do you go to binge eating? Do you isolate? These might be patterns that the back of your brain is using, that when you feel overwhelmed and stressed, it's sending signals to your conscious mind to say, you should do this right now. Why? Because you're overwhelmed and stressed. And your prefrontal cortex, the front of your brain and things like that, are not strong enough yet to overcome these impulses. And the more you start to consciously make the decision to do these activities, including things like digging into your past behavior, it could be old traumatic experiences, the more you start to take back control of your own body. And that's essentially the crux of where the work lies. It's you taking control of you. It's you going through the actions and the methods and the processes of doing the activities that we have proven through science and research and data actually strengthen the parts of your brain that allows you to maintain and hold a longer duration of control over your body throughout the day, so you don't go unconscious, so you don't go autopilot, so you don't go, when did I end up here? How did I end up, jerking off the porn for the third time this day? How did I go 6 hours playing video games nonstop? But I knew I shouldn't have been doing it. I know I shouldn't be doing it, but I couldn't stop myself. Because the parts of your brain associated with keeping those impulses under control have atrophied. They're weaker. They're not as strong as they could be, not as strong as they should be. So doing the work in this case is voluntarily finding the activities and figuring out what it is, those activities that you need to do that will actually strengthen those parts of your brain that helps you control the impulses from the back of your brain. I wanted to make a quick mention about what the circumstances in your life as a man that you would have had growing up to actually have strengthened these parts of the brain naturally that you didn't. And to understand that the crux of the phrase or the statement of like behind do the work, or it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility, is the idea that growing up, ideally you would have had lots and lots of circumstances in a healthy environment with parents or caregivers or guardians or somebody that would have gradually exposed you and you're developing a growing brain to be able to do the activities and tasks that trains your prefrontal cortex, your anterior cingulate cortex, all the fancy parts of your neurology that actually is what's helping you to develop impulse control that you might not have received. So if you find yourself in your life going, why can't I control myself? Why can't I stop myself? Why can't this? Why can't that? I know I should be, but I can't. Where did it go wrong? It may very well be that you just did not get the exposure and the training you needed growing up from your parents, from your guardians, from your caregivers, from your society, from your community, from the people around you, that you are now having to work on a little bit later on in life. And there is a point of that's not fair, and it's unfortunate, and it sucks that maybe you didn't get the training you needed. Maybe you didn't get the exposure you needed. I know myself, when I was growing up, I had a disproportionately large access to free time and downtime in video games. And it's become a struggle in my adult years at times to rein in my urge to spend minutes, days, not days, hours playing video games and things like that. Or maybe occasionally, in the past, using excessive porn and things like that to essentially numb out or dodge the responsibility and wondering, why can't I stop myself? Why can't I? And recognizing that, it's because I've spent a long time training myself to not train myself, training myself to overemphasize the back of my brain and not emphasize the front of my brain. And nowadays, what I will do is make a point to say, okay, I'm having an impulse right now to play games. I'm an impulse to watch porn. I'm an impulse to, eat junk food or ignore what I need to do, and recognize, like, where is this coming from? Why is this? Oh, it's because the impulses in the back of my brain are still firing. And maybe I need to do a little bit more work to work on the front of my brain. I need to do some meditation. Whenever I feel the urge to play games, really, I should go meditate for 5-10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. When I have the urge to eat junk food, I'm probably just actually getting hungry for some real food. When I don't want to go to the gym, I remind myself, well, you're going to feel better afterwards. I am trying to do the activities that will help me to strengthen the front of my brain, the parts of my brain that can control impulses in the back of the brain. And even though it may not make it easier to do it flat out, there is a sense of strength in understanding. So I don't attack myself when I say, oh God, what's wrong with me? I want to play games and do this and do that. Oh, it's just the back of my brain doing what it does. And maybe the front of my brain isn't as strong as it could be today, right now, under the circumstances I'm in. I didn't sleep well. I didn't eat well. I haven't been meditating. So I have some work to do. That is my work. That is the work. I need to do something. I need to do an activity that is going to strengthen the PFC, the ACC, the other parts of the brain that are going to help manage those impulses and figure out healthier ways to get those impulses satisfied and dealt with in a healthy and productive manner repeatedly through time, and give myself the grace for when I screw up, because I will screw up. I'm going to fall off track once in a while. I'm going to watch the P word. I'm going to play some video games longer than I should. But recognizing that when you repeatedly decide to take those actions, even in the face of all the thoughts and ideas of your brain screaming at you to not do it, you're still making progress. You're still moving in the right direction. I'm still moving in the right direction. Do I have relapses? Sometimes, yeah. But am I still on a better track than I was years ago when I was a kid playing 12 plus hours a day of video games? Hell of a lot better. And I'm getting better every day. Every day that I wake up and decide that even though my brain is screaming at me to play games, watch porn, eat junk food, whatever the impulse of the day might be for you or for me or for anybody, the work is saying to yourself, I'm going to do something that's going to strengthen the parts of my brain that helps to manage these impulses, and or figure out where these impulses and behaviors came from, and then figure out a new behavior loop that I can train myself into to have a better and productive, meaningful life, that I'm doing things that I want to do rather than what my impulses want me to do. Food for thought. So what do you think? What does the work look like for you? What are your daily rituals? What are your daily activities? Do you do breath work? Do you meditate? Do you journal? Do you do all of them? Do you do none of them? Let me know in the comments below. Like, follow, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. And do me a favor and spread this to somebody else who you feel can also use some help in doing the work. Until next time, thanks.